theory syllabus also once, because I need confirmation of this. Then we can start the class. Definitely today class will be really interesting, so pay attention. Why Preeti joined in another link? Just a second, let me inform in the group. All people join in this. Okay. Other need the syllabus of theory. So let me open the syllabus of theory. So here we have gastric function test. Okay. So we have composition, free acidity, total acidity, gastric stimulants, tubeless gastric analysis, cardiac profile, hypertension. All right. So you already got these things in the theory class, it seems. Okay. Mhm. So I'm opening the syllabus, students. So in the biochemistry lab syllabus, totally you have 13 experiments. Okay. So the experiments include total bilirubin estimation, amylase estimation, AST estimation, ALT estimation. Then we have alkaline phosphatase estimation. Then we have acid phosphatase estimation, determination of OGTT. So what is OGTT? Can anyone say what is the full form of OGTT? Students?
Sir, oral glucose tolerance test.
Very good. Oral glucose tolerance test. So correct.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Then we have so total serum protein estimation, then creatinine estimation, blood urea estimation, serum cholesterol estimation. Then you have collection of gastric juice and demonstration of working of random access analysis. So totally you have 13 experiments, and in today's lecture maybe I will focus on this one, on 12th experiment. So the 12th experiment is demonstration of collection of gastric juice. So gastric juice collection and its functions and its significance and its lab diagnosis. So in today's lecture we will cover all aspects of gastric juice analysis. Okay. So I will focus on gastric juice examination in today's lecture. Not only collection but complete spectrum. Okay. I will cover all the things surrounding the gastric juice analysis. Okay. Okay. So in biochemistry, when we are discussing about gastric juice, the the test that we will do for gastric analysis to see any stomach abnormalities, indigestion problems, or any intestinal problems. To identify those, we will do a series of tests. A series of tests to determine the functioning capabilities of the stomach, and those tests are called as gastric function tests. So gastric function tests are used. We will do gastric function test to see the functioning of the stomach and the intestine. Okay. Coming to some clinical conditions of gastric juice analysis. So basically we will do gastric juice analysis to see any indigestion problems, to identify any ulcers in the stomachs, to identify any ulcers in the intestine, to check any internal bleeding in the intestine, to check any intestinal bleeding, and even sometimes to check the what is that, inflammatory bowel disease. So inflammatory bowel disease means it is an autoimmune disorder where the antibodies will destroy the inner lining of the intestine. It can be either large intestine or small intestine. So autoantibodies will be developed, and these autoantibodies will destroy the intestinal tract, resulting in a severe inflammation and uh, a severe stomach problems. Okay, and that may result even in death. And this particular disease is called as inflammatory bowel disease. Okay. So for in order to identify all these disorders of stomach, we will do these tests and these tests. Yes, sir. Hi, sir. Mm, and these tests are called as gastric function tests. So, um, so in today's lecture, I will cover the properties of gastric juice, the the composition of gastric juice, functions of gastric juice, collection of gastric juice, and various gastric function tests. What are the different types of tests we will do in order to identify abnormalities of stomach? So all these 5 points I will cover in today's lecture. So I will discuss about the properties of gastric juice, functions of gastric juice, a brief anatomy of the of the enterocanal canal, and I will discuss about the collection of gastric juice and different tests, gastric function tests. Mm, so I have already shared my written notes in the group. So and you can also find the same notes in the U Satyanarayana textbook. So I have collected notes from the U Satyanarayana textbook, and I have prepared the notes. Okay. So you can refer either one of those. So let me open the PDF now. Students, are you following me? Students, are you there?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So from now onwards, kindly start writing notes. Okay. So it will be really interesting, and this will be really useful for you. So kindly start writing notes from now onwards. So coming to the introduction to gastric function tests or the significance of gastric juice. So as you already know, the stomach plays an important role in digestion or important role in absorbing all the types of nutrients that our body requires. At last, we are surviving because of eating something, and that eating material should be absorbed and it should be digested. Then only we can survive. So each and every organ has its own significance, but stomach also plays a very important role to sustain the life. Okay, so if there is any problem with stomach means you cannot digest the food. If you are not digesting the food, you can't stay healthy. If you can't stay healthy, game over. So in a nutshell, stomach plays a vital role. Okay. So if there is any abnormality in stomach function means those abnormalities can be detected by this gastric function test. Okay. Now let us see the thing. So what is the purpose or the significance of gastric function test? So the significance of gastric function test is to identify any gastric ulcers, to detect pernicious anemia, to detect iron deficiency anemia, or to detect vitamin B12 deficiency anemia, or many other problems can be detected by this gastric function juice analysis. So first, I don't know why, but hmm, let me directly go to the hmm. I don't know why I'm unable to find here. Anyway, so just write down the composition of the properties of gastric juice. So in case of properties of gastric juice, you need to know three important properties. One is the volume of gastric juice. So the normal volume of gastric juice will be around 1.2 to 1.5 liters per day. So per day, our stomach will secrete around 1.2 to 1.5 liter of gastric juice will be produced per day. So that is the volume. So volume is 1.2 to 1.5 liters. Then coming to the pH. So the pH of gastric juice will be around 1. So gastric juice pH is 1. Okay. So the pH of gastric juice is 1, and the specific gravity of gastric juice will be 1.002 to 1.006. So that is the specific gravity of the gastric juice. So the specific gravity of gastric juice is around 1.002 to 1.006, whereas the pH is 1, and the volume is 1.2 to 1.5 liters per day. So the rate of production of gastric juice will be around 1.2 to 1.5 liters per day. Okay, so that is the properties of gastric juice. Then second one is the the composition of gastric juice. So coming to the composition of gastric juice, you this gastric juice is a combination of different secretions. It's a combination of secretions by various glands in the stomach. So there are different types of glands in the stomach, and those glands will secrete the gastric juice. So now I will summarize the names of the glands and their secretions. So the second topic is composition of gastric juice. So in composition of gastric juice, first you need to know the gastric glands. What are the types of glands we have in the stomach and what are their secretions? So because gastric juice is a combination of all the secretions by these various glands. So now let us see the names of those glands. So imagine if this is the stomach. So stomach has one greater curvature and one lesser curvature. And this is the superior part of the stomach and this is the inferior part of the stomach. In the inferior part, you will have the pylorus, and this pylorus is connected to the duodenum. Whereas the superior part, it is connected to the esophagus, and there will be a small notch, and that notch is called as cardiac notch. So the superior part, you have cardiac notch, then you have the fundus region, the body, the greater curvature is called as the fundus of the stomach, and the bottom portion of the stomach is called as the pyloric region of the stomach. Now, we have given the names to the glands depending upon the location where they are present in the stomach. If the gland present near the cardiac notch, then those glands are called as cardiac glands. If the glands present near the fundus of the stomach, then those glands are called as fundic glands. If the glands present near the pyloric region of the stomach, then those are called as pyloric glands. So basically we have three types of glands in the stomach. Okay, broadly there are three types of glands. You have cardiac glands, fundic glands, and the pyloric glands. Now let me tell the significance of each glands. What is the pH of gastric juice? Can anyone say? What is the pH of gastric juice? One.
One.
Very good. Very good. So I'm just checking whether you are paying attention or not, and I'm really glad to see your attention. Okay. The pH of stomach is 1. And what is the reason to have this high acidic pH of gastric juice? What is the major substance that contributes to this particular pH? Can anyone guess?
HCl of the.
Perfect. Very good, Eric. HCl. Because of presence of this HCl, the gastric juice is highly acidic in nature. Believe it or not, gastric juice is really acidic. Let me tell you a comparison. So the pH of a lemon, the lemon pH will be around 3.5. So that is the pH of lemon. Whereas the pH, you will use this Harpic or some latrine cleaning acids. Their pH will be around 2. Even 2 pH is enough to burn the skin. Very high acidic. 2 means pH of 2 means highly acidic. Then pH of 1 is present in battery acids. Battery acid is highly volatile acid and it can even digest bones. Battery acid will be even less than 1. And do you know what is the pH of gastric juice? And our gastric juice pH is 1. Just imagine how much powerful the juice is, how much powerful acidic it is. So why do we have this much acidic acidic juice in our body? In order to digest all types of food material. Our stomach can, not human stomachs, but anaconda, some snakes and some animals, they can even digest bones. This gastric juice pH is so high that they can even digest bones of the meat. So that is the interesting thing. So now my point is, this acidity is given by the HCl, as our Eric said. Then who is secreting HCl? How we got this HCl? Are we drinking daily battery acid? Or are we drinking acid daily into stomach? Then how we are getting this HCl? what is responsible for secretion of this HCl? So this HCl is secreted by a gland. That gland name is called as this one, fundic gland. So fundic gland will secrete the HCl. To be precise, if you take a single fundic gland, this single fundic gland has various types of cells. It will have a deep notch like this. If you see the structure of the fundic gland, in this fundic gland, it will have different cells. It is a combination of various types of cells. Okay. In this, it has a specific cell called parietal cells. And those parietal cells will secrete HCl. It is because of these parietal cells the HCl is produced. So the HCl is produced by the parietal cells of the fundic gland. And also many enzymes that are required for digesting or breaking down the biomolecules. Those enzymes are produced by the fundic gland. Before discussing about those enzymes, I just need to know whether you know or not. Okay? Can anyone say what are biomolecules? What are biomolecules? And I need examples. Tell me examples of biomolecules. Tell me, students. What are biomolecules and what are those? Why this grave silence, deadly silence?
Are
Scary
produced by
silence.
living organisms.
Biomolecules are produced by living organs. That is absolutely correct. I'm agreeing. Can you give examples, Preeti? Yesterday, Shahrukh said another interesting definition. Biomolecules will have
Carbohydrate, lipids, and also.
Sir, lipids, nucleic acid, proteins.
very good, Preeti. Very good. Yes, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, lipids, starch, um, proteins, all these are biomolecules. Or Deepak also said no. The molecules that will have carbon as a backbone, all those molecules are called as biomolecules. And major biomolecules are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. So these four are the major biomolecules. So whatever food we are eating, in that food, it will have these four molecules. It will have carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. Now, we need to digest these biomolecules. We need to digest carbohydrates. So carbohydrates will be digested by a specific enzyme called hexokinases. So these hexokinases will digest the carbohydrates. And we have lipids. Lipids will be digested by the lipases. Lipases are the enzymes that will digest the lipids. Then we have proteins. These proteins will be digested by pepsin and some proteases. So pepsin is one good example for digesting lipid proteins. Okay. Then nucleic acids will be digested by various nucleic acid, nucleic acid cleavages. Those enzymes. Just a second.
वेट पेपर्स ही चाहिए समझ गए आप
వైట్ పేపర్స్ అక్కడ ఉన్నాయి అంటే అవి నేను ఆ రోజు బ్లాక్లో పెట్టి రూమ్లో రేపైతే ఇక్కడ పెట్టి మళ్ళీ రిటర్న్ వాడేస్తాం సార్ వాట్ ఎవర్ ఐ హ్యావ్ మే ఖాళీ कर दिया अरे यार disturbances in between. Sorry, students. So all these enzymes that will break down the biomolecules are secreted by the fundic gland. So fundic gland will secrete HCl, and also it will secrete it will produce enzymes to break down the biomolecules. Enzymes such as trypsin, chymotrypsin, renin, lipases, hexokinases, all these enzymes are produced by the fundic gland. So fundic gland secretions will have these enzymes particularly. So that is the major function of the fundic gland. Then coming to the cardiac gland, okay, the starting gland. So cardiac gland will secrete a substance called gastrin. Gastrin is very important for digestion of to maintain the digestive properties of the gastric juice. that is secreted by the cardiac gland. So cardiac gland will secrete the gastrin. Not only gastrin, it also secretes small amount of mucus. So mucus and gastrin will be secreted by the cardiac gland. Then last and final gland is the pyloric gland. And this pyloric gland will extensively secretes the mucus that will coat the inner lining of the stomach. And what is the significance of this mucus? Mucus will prevent stomach from self-digestion by the presence of gastric juice. At last, our stomach is also a meat sac. It is also a small meat bag, and in the stomach it has the content that can digest the meat. So stomach must protect itself from the gastric juice that is present inside it. For that protection, the stomach has a protective lining called mucus lining, and this mucus is extensively secreted by the pyloric gland. So pyloric gland will secrete the mucus that will coat the inner lining of the stomach, and that will protect the stomach from self-digestion by the gastric juice. So now you may understand that the gastric juice is a combination of secretions of various glands. It may have mucus. Most probably mucus won't present. Mucus only present when there is a rupture to the gastric wall. Okay. It may have enzymes, HCl. It may have gastrin. So it may have secretions from various glands of stomach. That will be the that is the composition of the gastric juice. It will have pepsin, everything. Okay. Now these enzymes will present in the inactive form in the gastric juice. They will present in their inactive form. For example, pepsin. Pepsin will present in a form of inactive form called pepsinogen. And this pepsinogen will convert to active form called pepsin. In order to activate that pepsinogen, all enzymes must need a specific pH. Only at that specific pH, these enzymes will get activated and they will show their function. For example, the pepsinogen will convert to pepsin in the pH less than 6. If the pH is less than 6, then only pepsinogen will convert to pepsin. Okay, so similarly, each enzyme has its own pH range, and that pH will only at that specific pH the enzyme will work. So that is all about the composition and the concept of enzyme action. So each enzyme has its own specific pH. Okay, now I said previously that if you found any mucus in the gastric juice, means that indicates there is a problem with damage to the inner lining of stomach. Only in such cases you will find mucus in the gastric juice. That is commonly seen in case of gastric ulcers, in case of amoebic dysentery, or in case of any amoebic diseases where there will be more mucus production by the stomach. Yes, sir. Uh, Sorry, student, little busy actually. I think I was prolonging the lecture. So far we already completed 2 points. One is properties of gastric juice. So the properties include 3. One is pH. pH is 1. Volume is 1.2 to 1.5 liters per day. Then specific gravity is 1.002 to 1.006. That is the specific gravity. Then we discussed about the glands of the stomach. It has the 3 glands: cardiac gland, funny gland, and the pyloric gland, and they will secrete different types of substances, such as funny gland will secrete HCl, and all other enzymes such as pepsin, renin, chymotrypsin. All those enzymes will be secreted by the Fundy gland, whereas the cardiac gland will secrete a substance called gastrin, whereas the pyloric gland will extensively secrete the mucus. So these are the major composition and their functions of the and the glands that are present in the stomach. Then the third one is collection of this gastric juice. How to collect this gastric juice? So third one will be collection of gastric juice. So the procedure to collect gastric juice is called as gastric lavage. So there are two terms to collect the gastric juice. So those terms are, one is gastric juice aspiration, and second one is gastric lavage or lavage. So what is the major difference between these two? Both procedures are for collection of gastric juice only. Then what is the major difference? What is the difference between aspiration and lavage? Can anyone say? Do you know the difference between aspiration and lavage or washing? Okay, don't go with washing. I need the difference between lavage and aspiration. Okay, I will tell you. Obtaining pure fluid by sending any tube. For example, I will send a tube into the stomach and I will collect the pure gastric juice without any contaminants. That is called as aspiration. Obtaining the pure fluid is called as aspiration. Then second scenario, sometimes even after sending tube into the stomach of the patient, we may not acquire any juice. We cannot aspirate any juice. Maybe the quantity of juice is very less that the tube is unable to suck it. If that is the case, how to obtain the gastric juice in a patient where we failed to aspirate the juice? In such conditions, what we will do is, after sending the tube, we will infuse some saline fluid. We will send some saline fluid. So this saline will go to the stomach and it will wash the stomach. If there is any trace amounts of gastric juice, means this gastric juice will be mixed in the saline that we sent. Now this gastric juice containing saline will be aspirated, and this procedure is called as, or will be collected, and this procedure is called as gastric lavage. So this is the major difference between gastric lavage and aspiration. In lavage, we will send some fluid to collect the fluid, whereas in aspiration, we will collect only the pure form of fluid. Okay. So now you got the point, right? So that is the major difference between gastric lavage and gastric aspiration. Now let us.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Mr. Rasan.
Sir, what can we do in case of endoscopy?
What can we do in case of endoscopy? Actually, endoscopy is only for seeing the internal organs. That is the only purpose of endoscopy. Okay, sometimes what we should do is, rather than collecting gastric juice, I need to collect juice from the small intestine. A small intestine juice is called as Atisacus entericus. Now I need to know whether my pipe went to the small intestine or not. I need to guide my pipe to the small intestine. Then I need to collect the fluid. And how I will know? How I will know that my pipe reached to the small intestine? In such circumstances, what we will do is, along with the pipe, we will send a camera fitted tube. So along with this pipe, we will send a camera and we will observe in the screen. The location of the tube will be seen in the camera with the help of this with the help of this endoscope. So that's it. That is the major function of endoscope. Endoscope will guide the tube to its desired location. That is the major function of endoscopy. So endoscopy is for seeing the internal structure or seeing the internal colon of the stomach. Okay. So by endoscopy it's just a supporting aid. That's it. It's a modified camera. It's a tube camera. That's it. In a nutshell. Okay. Now coming to the aspiration or lavage, both is done by introducing a pipe into the stomach, and that is a modified tube. Uh, and this modified tube is called as Ryle's tube. The tube that we are sending into the stomach to collect the gastric juice. That tube name is called as Ryle's tube. R-A-Y-L-S, Ryle's tube. So this Ryle's tube we will use to collect the gastric juice. Now, what is the procedure? So procedure includes three important things: pre-test protocols, test protocols, and post-test protocols or procedure. So pre-test protocols include the patient should be in strict fasting condition. He should be strictly follow a fasting condition of for last 24 hours or last 8 hours. He should not even take a single bite of any substances. He should be in pure fasting. If not, he may take a very light diet, maybe only 2 idlis per day. He can drink water. So patient should be in
Excuse
strict
me,
diet.
sir.
Yes, Mr. Eric.
Does gastric juice produce every time?
Does gastric juice produce every time? Okay, that is a good question. Yes, every time gastric juice will be produced in a normal healthy person. In a healthy person, he will produce around 1.2 to 1.5 liters of gastric juice per day. But there are some diseases or there are certain conditions where the patient fail to produce gastric juice. Patient sometimes they may not produce gastric juice, and there are various reasons for it. I will tell only 2 reasons. First reason is he can produce gastric juice, but they are not stimulating. The gastric glands are not get stimulated. Only if they stimulated, then only they will secrete the juice. Maybe there is a problem with stimulation. He has some problems where the gastric glands are not stimulating. That is why he is not producing gastric juice. If that is the case, what we will do is we will give certain drugs. We will give certain stimulants. After giving these stimulants, we will check whether he produced gastric juice or not. Even after giving stimulants, still he is not producing gastric juice, means that indicates he has a major problem. Just a second, let me. Hello? Sorry, students, little busy today. Okay. Okay. Stimulants. So, problem with stimulants. Okay. Because of that, the patient may not produce gastric juice. And second one is maybe the gland was completely dysfunctioning. Maybe the gland was completely out of order. At that condition, patient may not produce gastric juice. That is complete absence is because of lack of nerve supply to the corresponding organ. There is one important nerve which is really badass. I'm sorry to say, but it is really bad. Okay, it is really very good at stimulating, or the most powerful sympathetic stimulant nerve in the body, and that nerve is the vagus nerve. If vagus nerve get activated, means that's it. It won't listen any. There is no mechanism to prevent vagus nerve activity. Vagus nerve is like an autonomous sympathetic nerve. If vagus nerve activated, means okay, you may control your peeing for some time, but at one particular stage, vagus nerve may get activated. If vagus nerve take the charge of the bladder, means you can't stop it. No, you must go for urination. So that is the unique feature of vagus nerve. Why I'm telling this? Because in some individuals, because of some surgery or due to some trauma, due to some accident or due to some mechanical injury, this vagus nerve will be cut down. The vagus nerve that is supplying to the intestine. If that is the case, the patient cannot produce any gastric juice. He will be completely absence of gastric juice. And that condition is called as acylia gastrica. Students, am I audible? Am I audible? Hello. Kindly let me know if I'm audible to you. Anyone?
Yes, sir, audible.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Yes, so Eric asked, is there any possibility of absence of gastric juice? Yes, there is possibility. That possibility, it can be either because of absence of stimulation by the glands, or second one is the breakage of the vagus nerve. In these two conditions, patient cannot produce any gastric juice, and that we can detect. Okay. So I have already discussed the procedure of collection of gastric juice. So patient should be on strict diet. Okay. After strict diet, now why we are keeping patient in strict diet? Because if he had any food part, in case of indigestion, so that is why patient should be in complete strict diet. Then only we can analyze his gastric juice volume. So gastric juice volume can be only pure gastric juice volume can be analyzed only when the patient is in fasting condition. Second one, if he has any food residues, means they will give false results for us. Food residues may have mucus, and we will get mucus positive. Food residues will have hydrogen peroxidase. Some vegetables will have hydrogen peroxidase, and the same hydrogen peroxidase present in the blood also. In order to detect the occult blood, the principle of occult blood is release of hydrogen peroxidase from the red blood cells. I hope you remember occult blood analysis. There we will detect the hydrogen peroxidase. If you eat any food that contains hydrogen peroxidase, means we will get a false positive test indicating presence of blood in the stomach, but that is not true blood. It is the dietary stuff. So that is why patient should be in strict diet. Then second one, the procedure. In the procedure, what we will do, when we are introducing the pipe, we won't introduce pipe through the mouth, rather than we will introduce the Ryle's tube through the nose, through the oropharynx. Through the nasopharynx. Now, first we will take the length of the tube. First we will measure the length from the nose to the oropharynx. So first we will take this measurement. Then after taking this measurement from, so we will measure this much and we will take this much tube. Then we will mark the bottom side of the tube. Then from here we will measure the length to till the stomach until the diaphragm. Then we will mark the complete length in the bottom. That indicates the level of the stomach or the diaphragm. So after marking the complete length of the tube, then we will start introducing it. Why we are doing this? Because we are ensuring that the tube is not going beyond the stomach. We are only ensuring that the tube will go to the right side in the stomach. It should only go out until stomach, but not beyond the stomach. It should not go to the small intestine or large intestine. For that purpose, we will measure the nose to oropharynx length, and we will measure from the esophagus to the upper part of the diaphragm. So after taking these measurements, we will start inserting the Ryle's tube into the through the nose into the stomach. Then we will tape it and we will aspirate whatever we want. If we are not getting aspirants, then we will send some saline and we will take the lavage. That is the procedure of collection of gastric juice. Let us see in my notes the collection of gastric juice. Then I will proceed with gastric function tests. So where is it? So this is the procedure. So the procedure is, after overnight fasting, Ryle's tube is passed into the stomach and resting contents are removed completely. After emptying the stomach of resting contents, collect two times for every 15 minutes. Actually, this is not for gastric. Okay, this is one particular. This procedure is for one particular test in the gastric juice analysis. So in some patients, what will happen is they cannot remove their indigested material. In that conditions, we should remove complete juice, complete indigested material completely. We need to completely empty the stomach. Then we will keep the patient in fasting condition. That is different story. Okay. I will come to this point. Just to give me some time. Okay. So that is the procedure of collection of gastric juice. So gastric juice, you need to remember two names: aspiration and lavage. Aspiration means direct collection. Lavage means by sending some saline, and the tube name is called as Ryle's tube. That's it. Then the next topic will be gastric function tests. So what are the different types of function tests we have? Gastric function tests we have. So the first one is gastric stimulation tests. So these tests will determine the stimulating capabilities of the organs, whether they are responding to the stimulants or not. For that, what we will do? First, we will empty the stomach by removing complete by sending tube. We will empty the stomach after overnight fasting. Then we will give a stimulant to the patient. Stimulants, they are the normal substances. Even basic caffeine, which is present in your coffee, even caffeine will be a very good stimulant to produce gastric juice. So I will give caffeine and I will see whether patient producing gastric juice or not. If he is not producing, then I will go with the second stimulant. I will use pentagastrin. So pentagastrin is also one stimulant which we will use for release of gastric juice by the stomach. Even the stomach even after introducing pentagastrin, still there is no gastric juice production, means now we will go with a very potent chemicals, and we need to be very cautious when we are using these chemicals. Those chemicals are histamine. Histamine is one of the powerful gastric stimulant. If you give 1 ml of histamine to the stomach, to the patient, that's it. He will produce some 2 to 3 liters of gastric juice. So histamine is one of the potent gastric stimulant. Even after giving histamine, still the patient not producing gastric juice, means the last and final option we have is a modified form of histamine, which is called as augmented histamine. We need to be very cautious when we are using augmented histamine. There will be a possible patient death because of overstimulation of gastric juice, overstimulants of gastric glands. So that is why when we are giving augmented histamine, parallelly we will get ready with histamine suppression drug also. If its augmented histamine activity is prolonged, means he will die. So we will get ready with its suppressant. So after giving this, if he is not producing anything, fine. If he started producing, means definitely we should give suppressant. If not, he will die. So these are the four important gastric stimulation tests we have. Now I will show my notes of these gastric stimulants. I'm not going to discuss the procedure of individual test. I'm just giving you some idea about various stimulants. Yeah. These are the basic stimulants. We have alcohol. Yes, a basic alcohol can also be a very good stimulant. Okay, so alcohol stimulation tests, caffeine stimulation tests, histamine stimulation tests, augmented histamine stimulation tests. We have pentagastrin stimulation tests and insulin stimulation tests. So these are the 5 stimulation tests we have. In order to memorize these sequence, I have given a mnemonic called CHAPA-I. So CHAPA-I means caffeine stimulation test, histamine stimulation test, augmented histamine stimulation test, pentagastrin stimulation test, and I is for insulin stimulation. So this A is only for supporting P. Okay, so caffeine, histamine, augmented histamine, pentagastrin, and insulin stimulation test. These are the various types of stimulation tests we have. Okay, I'm not going to discuss the procedure of individual stimulation tests. Then I want to emphasize one important thing. Stomach ulcers, in case of gastric ulcers or stomach cancer, imagine you have cancer in the fundy gland. You have cancer to the parietal cells. So now we have excessive parietal cells in the stomach. If there are more parietal cells, there will be more production of HCl. If there is more production of HCl, the pH of the stomach the gastric juice will increase damn high. It will become too much acidic. I mean, pH will be less. It will go down, pH low, and acidity will be high. That results in a disease called a highly acidic disease called as Zollinger-Ellison disease. Zollinger-Ellison disease means the pH of gastric juice will be highly acidic. pH will be less than 1, and that disease is called as Zollinger-Ellison disease. And there is a term, hyperacidity is called as hyperchlorhydria. Hyperacidic gastric juice is called as hyperchlorhydria. And decreased acidity of gastric juice, that means the pH higher than 7, and that condition is called as hypochlorhydria. Less acidity is called as hypochlorhydria. Sometimes patient will have gastric juice, but there won't be any HCl. There won't be any acidity, and that condition is called as achlorhydria. Gastric juice in the absence of HCl is called as achlorhydria. Complete absence of gastric juice is called as acylia gastrica. Complete absence of gastric juice is called as acylia gastrica. So these are the 4 important terms you need to memorize. Increased acidity is called as hyperchlorhydria. Decreased acidity is called as hypochlorhydria. Absence of HCl in the gastric juice is called as achlorhydria. Complete absence of gastric juice is called as acylia gastrica. So this is all about the broad spectrum. A brief summary of gastric function test, students. So let us go with my notes once. So let us do a quick brushing up of the notes. So let us see here. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So, is there any way of improving a gastric juice?
Is there any way
to improve a gastric juice?
Good question. For your question answer, I have already given. Uh, okay. Is there any techniques to have a proper digestion? So when we say techniques to have proper digestion, we are basically telling about we need proper stimulants, gastric juice stimulants, and some of the good gastric juice stimulants include caffeine and alcohol. Okay, alcohol in a limited quantity, not excessive. Or second one is caffeine, a cup of coffee. So have a cup of coffee, then you definitely you will feel appetite, you will feel hunger. Okay, these two are natural remedies for increasing the appetite. So when we are saying increasing the appetite means we are literally increasing the gastric juice in the stomach. When there is when there is more juice, automatically we will feel hungry, and that's it. So caffeine is one best food, one best source for increasing the appetite. Then in the stomach itself, I need to tell one more thing. Not only digesting the food, but excreting the waste product is also important. Defecation is also important. For that purpose, we the, the the waste material, the fecal material should be hard. Then only we can nicely we can eliminate from the system. That is why we need to ensure whenever we are taking any diet, that diet should have some fiber. Fiber diet will enhance proper defecation. But there is the second problem. If you are if you are completely relying on highly fiber diet means the stool will become really hot, and now you cannot even defecate. No, the fecal material will stuck in the large intestine or in the rectum. At that condition, we can take supplements that will smoothen the 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 fecal material and that will enhance defecation. And those substances are called as laxatives. And one of the good laxative for defecation is banana. Banana is a rich source of mucins, and mucins will enhance proper defecation. So that is why these are the good diet. You must have at least one banana after every meal, so that you will have a proper digestion and proper defecation. Actually, there are many things to discuss like this, students. You can go through the notes, okay, in the textbook. If you want, I will crop the desired pages of this gastric juice, gastric function test, and I will provide I will provide material in the group, okay. That's it. That is all about the gastric function test. Any more doubts? I'm really happy when you're asking doubts. Any more? I will tell only one thing, and we can say goodbye each other. Okay. In the stomach, we have a problem. The problem is we cannot synthesize a substance called intrinsic factor of casein. But this hormone, it is a hormone secreted by the stomach. Okay. This hormone is very essential for absorbing vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is very important for synthesizing of blood, for production of blood. Vitamin B12 is one of the important cofactors for blood production. And this vitamin B12 is absorbed by a hormone called intrinsic factor of casein. If the patient has any problem where he is unable to produce this hormone, means he will subject to a condition, an anemic condition called megaloblastic anemia. This megaloblastic anemia occurs because of absence of vitamin B12 and folic acid. So there is a connection between anemia and the stomach, especially this hormone. Interestingly, as I said, this hormone is not produced by the stomach, but it is produced by a gut flora. It is produced by the E. coli, which is a bacteria present in the intestine. So maintaining a healthy intestinal bacterial flora is also important. That is why when in case of children's, they will have many motions, they will have many digestive problems, and they may lose this important bacteria. This bacterial flora may wash out through motions. In that condition, what we will do is we will give uh, what is that? We will give a drink. Drink will contain complete good bacteria. They are called as 1 minute. I will let you know. Um, there is a word for that, students, that is available in bio yogurt. uh, yes, yogurt. So there is one technical word also, some medical word for yogurt. Yogurt has many good bacteria, and this yogurt will enhance to maintain the good flora of the gut, okay, of the intestine. Probiotics, yeah, they are called as probiotics. Yeah, so these probiotics available in the market, okay, they are available in this this modern market or any food stalls. So now and then you should have probiotics to have a healthy intestinal, healthy stomach. Yeah, yogurt. That's it, students. So those are my pro tips to maintain a healthy stomach. Any more doubts, Eric? By the way,
Why some bacteria? Why
mhm.
some bacteria surviving in stomach where there is acid?
Why there are bacteria when there is acid? I didn't get your question, Eric. I'm sorry. Tell me again.
Why why some bacteria surviving in stomach where there is too much acid?
Okay. Why we have bacteria in the stomach?
Example, Helicobacter pylori.
Yes, E. coli or anything. Actually, not all pathogens are deadly. There are certain bacteria which will uh, which will be like a good friends to us, and such bacteria or such microbes are called as symbiotic microbes. Symbiotic microbes means they will we will get help from them and they will get help from us. So we have mutual understanding between the some bacteria, okay. And the reason why we 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 have these bacteria, because by naturally we don't have some hormones or some enzymes which are produced by our body. So that is why we completely relied on these bacteria, and those bacterial presence is very essential for our survival. And second interesting thing what I found is somehow our immune system adopted to live with this bacteria, to keep this bacteria in our body, and no one knows, that is mystery, but immune system has been compromised to tolerate these bacteria. That is something interesting. But not all pathogens are symbionts. There are some symbiotic bacteria or microbes that are opportunists also. If their growth is beyond certain limit, they can cause opportunistic infection. If E. coli present only in the stomach, nothing happens. But E. coli comes outside the stomach. That means if it is on the skin or in the visceral organ, then that will cause opportunistic infection. If there is any breakage of the barrier, of this intestinal barrier between the bacteria and the normal organs, then the same E. coli will cause opportunistic infection in the same patient. We have a very complicated relationship with this bacteria actually. And you asked one more thing, how bacteria surviving in the acidic environment. Actually, we classified bacteria into three types: acid-loving bacteria, alkaline-loving bacteria, acidophils, alkalophils, and we have another also neutral, normal environment-loving bacteria. So acidophilic bacteria can only live in acidic environment, such as intestine. So they are naturally adapted to stay in this. They are naturally adapted to grow in these environments, and you can uh, you can you can say because of evolution. So they are adapted to stay in these environment. So that's it, students. I think I have satisfied your question, Eric. Is that okay for you? Any more doubts? See, for me, a class means not explaining what is there in the test. We should have a healthy discussion. Then only we will learn each other. By your question, even I'm also learning many things. I'm also thinking I will have brainstorm, and that makes me happy. Can I end this class then? Can I end this class, students? I don't know why today Joyce is completely silent. I think she's sleeping. Is it so, Joyce? Okay. Thank you very much, students. Thank you very much. See you. Goodbye. I think my students become zombies.
Bye, sir. Bye.
Yeah, see you.
Bye, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, see you.